crime here in this city has
Hmm.
always been a problem. Always.
Okay.
Okay. But there's a fundamental difference that most people don't understand about Memphis and its citizens. Memphians, long term generation of Memphians, we don't have a problem. We don't even see the crime. But what has happened here and what happens in most large cities is migration. And this city has a reputation of being a tough, bad, bloody, city, right?
It does.
People migrate here. They come here prepared, okay, and they come here overly prepared, so they react quite differently than what generation of Memphians would about situations. It's it's almost like um, emotionalism that runs into stability and intellect.
Okay.
So these migrants come here emotional and they react emotionally because they don't understand that Memphis really, yes, it's violent, but Memphians, uh, generational Memphians, we don't have a problem.
Okay. So so let me get this straight. What you are saying is the a lot of the crime that takes place in Memphis, the violent crime, is a product of people who are coming into Memphis who maybe have caught wind of that violent reputation, and they're on guard. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. See, it's difficult to understand when people migrate here. Memphis is the northernmost city of the Delta. Okay,
That it is.
city in the Delta, north of the southern areas of the Delta, the Mississippi, and all these types of cities and towns. And when
Hmm.
people say they're going north, they're actually saying they're coming to Memphis.
Ah, okay.
So when Memphians say I'm going north, we're talking about going to Chicago or Milwaukee and this type of thing, right?
That's what I was. That's what I was going to say. Is in Chicago when they say they going south, it's normally to Memphis. So
Exactly. Exactly. Anybody in that area, when they say I'm going south, they talking about coming to Memphis.
hmm.
Okay. And it's
Okay.
strangely, when you're in these large northern cities, you're gonna always see a sign that says Memphis.
You're exactly right.
That's how powerful this city is. It's a very powerful city in the southern
Hmm.
states. Okay, we're the metropolitan seat of uh, North Mississippi, uh, East Arkansas, okay, and West Tennessee. So these states, Memphis dominate these states economically. Okay, so when these people are when people are migrating from the deep south and coming north, they come to Memphis and they come prepared.
Okay.
That Memphis has acquired through the media. I lived at one time in was in one of the most dangerous areas in the city and didn't know it until I read the newspaper and they gave the statistics. You understand what I'm saying? I didn't know it. There was no sign of all this violence around us in the neighborhood. But when the statistics came out, it was the most violent area in the city.
I
Strangely,
mean, you had to have heard though, like gunshots and none of that.
none of it.
Okay.
No gunshots in the night, no blood, no deaths in the streets, no anything.
Okay. I mean, when I went to Memphis, I did notice that there was some upkeep issues. That parts of the city, were unremarkable, for lack of better terms. Um, and I know that I've heard through like different publications here and there that there's been some corruption in Memphis. On top of things too. So I mean, just like Memphis sounds a lot like Chicago. And along those lines, with the reason why I wanted you on this show is because there's a great contrast between Chicago and Memphis. One, because of going down south, you go to Memphis; going up north, you go to Chicago. That cousinship that they have, but also they share similarities with the crime aspect of things. Even so much so, crime in a liberal city, in which President Donald Trump has recently stated that next on the list is Chicago. After that, Memphis. Other liberal ran cities are up for grabs when it comes to the militarization of these cities, and that's why I thought it was great to have you on this show, was to kind of talk about that contrast, man. So, what do you think about that from Donald Trump?
Well, as far as Memphis is concerned, back in 1990s, when I launched an organization, and the name of that organization was Commission Against Senseless Killings. And we focused specifically on homicides that did not have the appearance of justification. It's just,
Okay.
there was no rational reason why this person or that person was killed. Okay, so you understand what I'm saying? So our organization addressed those specific types of killings. Okay,
Okay.
and what we found then, back then, through our community and grassroots works, is that the city did not have any tough policies in place to address the issues of homicide. Okay, specifically homicide. Now, all the other elements of crime, rape, robbery, auto theft, that's a different category here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, senseless homicides. There were no policy in place at all. In fact, our organization was responsible for defining this type of killing, okay, and came up with different means and methods to address it that the city adopted. So, in saying that, um, we we have not grown out of that, grown from that in this city. Homicides got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And back then, my organization concluded that we need some, we need to have police trained to rapidly respond to these types of killings. Okay, yeah. Something like a rapid response team that you would have in the military. In fact, okay, because
Okay.
the homicides were growing. Okay, violence was growing, and the police department here didn't have any means or ways to address the problem.
So when you say rapid response, how much more rapid could they be from the 911 system? What do you mean? Is it location based or what?
Pretty radical that when shootings and death was taking place, if they had to come jump out of helicopters, they should have. It was just that dangerous. Okay. See, you can't you can't cure a problem that's deadly by allowing the problem to continue and hoping that it cures itself. It's not going to cure it.
Okay.
You have to cure it. Okay. And our politicians here, liberal, as you mentioned earlier, liberal city, um, they were all and still are uh, addressing the situation from mother-child perspective.
Okay.
You know, and I and,
So
So
services,
services,
programs,
programs,
yeah, better
um,
education,
education.
and people
Yeah,
are dying.
right. So,
Yeah,
am I hearing this right that you are in favor of this new militarized kind of environment that Donald Trump is pushing onto liberal cities?
I think as far as Memphis is concerned, I don't think it's a bad idea.
Okay.
Okay, politically, okay, politically, you're gonna have Democrats versus Republicans and all that debating, and they are not right, and we right, and this kind of stuff. Okay, that's the
Hmm.
politics of it all. But when it comes to the safety of people on the streets, okay, you have to be a little radical. You have to you if the traditional means and methods are not working, and the number of killings are rising,
Hmm.
you have to do something. You can't just let it go. Okay, so I'm not politically, I'm not in favor of militaristic
Yeah.
situations happening in this city. Okay, I'm not for that. But from a social standpoint, I could give it some temporary opportunity there. Okay, to see if it's going to work. Okay, because if it works, then we have to applaud the movement. If it works,
Hmm.
doesn't work, then it's just another show of politics.
Well, in Washington, so far, there's been claims that so far the militarization movement has worked. I mean, they said that crime was down to, I want to say they went from 170 carjackings to 8, you know, and there's zero violent crimes in, the nights when they were there. But I think the bigger problem is the sustainability for one. And then the other side of things is what is the secondary move here? Because there's a fear that this has something to do with not only politics but actually uh, normalizing the military state in cities. So maybe when it's time for elections, I mean that's why people are saying that it's only happening. Well, he's saying it's only happening in the liberal cities because that could play into the votes into the voting lines. You could definitely, yeah, that could be it. So I do understand that fear, but I'm like you. I'm like you. Um, I I feel like liberals and Democrats are dropping the ball on this because some things you do have to just get behind. And when we are I'm looking at the stats right now in Chicago, the 2024 figures was 673 violent crimes per 100,000 people, 21 murders per 100,000 people, and that's pretty high, over the national average. So I mean, and then when you think about it, it's primarily young black men. So on one end, I don't agree with Donald Trump. I'm not in favor of much of his politics. Some things I am, though. I'm just one of those swing voters, though. If you actually have something that works, then I'm with it. But when I see a reduction in crime when it comes to our young men and families not suffering from violent crimes, I mean, I'm going to stand behind this as long as I can, especially in a place like Chicago that is overran with 100,000 gang members was the last estimate that I heard.
You know, I'm a lot older. I come from the old days when someone would be murdered in the 60s. It shocks the
Hmm.
whole city. One person, a murder happened in North Memphis, for an example. It 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 rippled through the city, devastating. Okay, um, one of the reasons I got involved in the homicide issues of the city is because my son and grandson, when they were at the age of maybe 3 and 4, and we were on 4th Street at the house. And on the corner, a neighbor had gotten shot and killed on the corner, and we watched it and we were looking at it. So my natural response was, how was I going to um, explain this to my sons? And I explained it to them by becoming an activist with them at my side. Now, my oldest son, that was my son and grandson, but my son was actually murdered in 2017, okay, through gang activity type stuff, okay? So, in saying that, I learned so much about the evolution and the growth of crime and violence. Crime and violence took off in the now my organization kicked off in 1991, but in the 80s is when it kicked off. When and it kicked off primarily because of what happened uh, among us during the Vietnam era war, when the war was but when the war was believed at that time to would have last a lot longer than what it did, okay, through
Hmm.
the efforts of Dr. King and Malcolm and all the others in the movement back then. They were the ones who were basically responsible for squashing the war. But the war was intended to last decades. Okay, so you think about it. Who's going to be fighting these wars when they last decades? Young boys, primarily.
In urban communities, impoverished communities.
We didn't pay attention to and didn't understand why did the government come up with a program that took fathers out of the home and financed wives, right?
Well, are you saying that is so you're saying fatherless homes and a overdrawn war pulling more fathers out the home is direct correlation to why we have the problems that we have in urban communities, primarily black communities. Okay.
70s, women were encouraged financially to separate from their husbands, to put, but because one of the things that in order to get a public house, get public housing in Memphis back then, a father could not be in the house, and
Hmm.
and at that time, um, uh, supervisors of these housing complexes or government agencies would stop in and inspect the home to make sure no personal items or anything like that that belongs to a man was in the house. And when women were, when husbands and were put out of their home, women were able to get subsidized income and food stamps and that type of thing. So it was encouraged that a man leave the house so that the women can get money food stamps. Okay, then it was food stamps. Okay, so in that, when a father leaves the home, the women, the girls, and the mother are vulnerable. The pregnancy rate increases tremendously. Why? Because the military needed fighting bodies. That's why the government did that. So that the military in this Vietnam War was going to continue for decades. And the only way that they can get fighting boys was to break families up, have the girls on their own and the boys on their own, and sexual promiscuity became the object. And through that, more pregnancies came about in preparing for the future of the war. But when Dr. King them killed that war, you ended up with a lot of pregnancies and a lot of children were born to teenage pregnancy.
Okay.
What happened? No fatherly supervision, children having children, and boys are now roaming without any masculine direction.
So, so this will be the first time that I've heard that theory that this was actually this was actually planning for the war, the Vietnam War, to last decades, and the U.S. thought that it'd be better to just have more children being born. So you saying that all of this planning went into that? So there's this theory, there's this popular understanding that the rise in violent crimes happened along the 80s, the trend lines with the drug war, right? The influx of drugs in urban communities alongside with the fact that a lot of fatherless homes were in place because of those earlier housing regulations that they had, those statutes that they had before to kick fathers, primarily black fathers, out of home. So are you telling me that crime was trending even before the drugs came into the black communities?
Crime started escalating about the same time that the fathers was ejected out of the households. See, that father image is a very powerful image. Um, uh, it actually is what boys look at to determine how they are going to structure their own lives. And without that, they can only do it structured around women, what women would do. And most of the time, that's femininity and emotionalism. And then, so you end up with boys roaming the street with little or no masculine uh, presence, and they act and carry on and do things primarily like females would do, meaning that before they get in a fist fight and actually fight, they pull a gun and shoot.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So a masculine boy, me boys, they would fight, physically fight. And the last resort would be pull a gun, or if one is pulled
Right.
at all.
Let me clear that up because I don't want anybody to be mad at us. I don't. I'm. You're saying like negative feminine energy. What you're saying is the over emotional traits that per se a woman would have maybe during a negative time in her life, but not just feminine energy. Because I mean, feminine women don't have this problem. Right. Right.
Femininity and masculinity, we're looking at the cause of a problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? And looking at the cause of the problem is we hope to bring about a change or results. Okay.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with the comment as far as that's concerned. This is not an attack
Yep.
on women. This is
And
a
I just want to make sure I clear. Yeah, I just want to make sure I totally get what you're saying, but I want to make sure that viewers at home can understand exactly what you're saying because it makes.
the women have to accept some responsibility. Okay.
Amen.
And so in accepting responsibility is not about right and wrong. It's about how we're gonna solve this problem and
Right.
not go through this again in the future. You know what I mean? In other words, we see what this brought about with this government
Mm-hmm.
and this and we see the results. We see our sons in graves and in prisons and all this. We don't need to do that again. Okay, we need to unite, come together, and solve this problem because, as we mentioned earlier, when it gets to the point where a president or the government concludes, in order for us to bring crime under control, we have to put military boots on the ground. That's not good.
Not at all.
That's not good. And what See, and it's not the president, it's the country. That's where the country is going. Okay? The country has witnessed decades of death among black folks, and there are a lot of Caucasian people don't like that. They don't want to see
Mm-hmm.
that. They don't want uh, uh, the city statistics bogged down with homicides. 300, 400, 500, 600 homicides a year.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Year, you're talking about 10,000 people, 88,000 people died in 10 years through gunshot in one city. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. So I want to hold you right there because I think this is a good time to enlighten the viewers. I just want to go over some of these stats that I have so far. So among adult murder arrestees, you got 51.3% black. You have 45.7% white. And then across all violent crime arrests, 69.4% were white, but 26.6% were black. Um, I understand that there are uh, some violent crimes that we have to deal with, especially when it comes to homicide in our community. But it seems like we have a violent nation as well. It's not just African American people. I think we bear the brunt of it because of the economic levels and the things that we've had to deal with over the past few centuries in order to get ourselves into a successful pattern. And all of the country has basically been against us up until the 1960s, and some would say even past that still. But then you have juvenile arrest for violent crimes. You got 50.3% white. You have 46.4% black. But I think the biggest thing for me was this the victimization rates. And it was for black people, we were at 21.3% per 100,000 people, excuse me, 21.3 per 100,000 people were homicide victims. But when you have white people, it's only 3.2% per 100,000. I mean, 3.2 per 100,000. That's a huge gap right there. That's saying something is that we actually have a definite problem because I'm not just looking at the numbers, I'm looking at all of the families that are losing loved ones at such a high rate and the trauma that we are taking on as a people. How do we break that cycle? Because this is cycle driven stuff. This is I don't and you said come together. How can we come together if we've all killed each other and we're all mad about it?
That's a solution oriented question, you know, and sometimes at least sometimes in my conversations with individuals, and I deliver to them my experience, my view of, of our social issues, and oftentimes uh, the person or people who I'm speaking to want to know what is the solution. Okay, well, and I always tell them the same thing. My profession is real estate. You know what I mean? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
this and this and this is what I do. Okay, I'm not a sociologist. I'm just speaking on term based on my observation and my existence on this earth among my people at this specific time and what I have observed. That's my expertise, right? Okay, now
Right.
we have to put more pressure on the academic, okay, people, the professional people who
Mm-hmm.
are in sociology, who you know, and who have studied these things, force them to give us the solution. That's their profession. That's how they make their living, right? Okay, pastors who come into contact with a broad array of individuals from across a broad spectrum of the community, and they hear a lot, know a lot. They're being paid. Get the solution from them. Okay, professionals in the police departments, solutions from them, not the politicians, because the politicians are elected for a specific time. They win or they don't
Mm-hmm.
win, right? They don't have any solutions, but they want to project themselves as having solutions and being knowledgeable of things for to win re-election. But they don't know
Right.
jack spat about what they're actually talking about because they're
So, so what responsibility does the parents bear? Because that's the huge issue that everyone is talking about. Parent responsibility.
we lost parenthood in the 60s. I mean the 70s. We lost parenthood. Look, when two parents were in the homes, social life, community life was better. Proven fact, better. It was when the parents were separated is when we start having the social problems. We have to accept that. That's a fact. Okay, we can't. We so so we can't now turn around and say parents is the problem. Parents need to do a better job. There aren't any parents. We lost parenthood. See, when the family was divided, everything was divided to everything. When families were together, there was only one thing. Okay, and that's pretty broad. Okay, but the bottom line is we can't claim parenthood anymore. We have to rebuild parenthood. And it's not
Okay.
our generation, it's the future generations that we have to do this for. We have to tell them, teach them, or show them, or educate them on why two parent homes are better. But as it stands right now, they're not coming together on their own anymore.
Yeah, I mean, why does it take a sociologist and people who study, academia, as you put it? Why does it take them to fix this problem? When I mean, I think me and you have pretty much just solved it right here. Reintroducing the black father back into the home is critical for us. Bringing marriage back into the forefront of our culture is pivotal for us. I hate saying that word, but it's very important for us. Matter of fact, it is a life saving thing. I oftentimes talk about how this National Geographic study in I think it was Yellowstone Mountains, they reintroduced the wolves back into the ecosystem because they correlated that without having those top apex predators there was, first of all, the other animals, the herbivores, ran wild, and they ate up all the vegetation, and they eroded the soil, and they made the environment worse. But the reintroduction of a predator, and not saying fathers are predators, but just saying we are kind of like the highest of the family tree. Uh, but reintroducing those animals back into the wild to balance things out actually changed everything. And now you have this thriving. And they said it happened so fast. Within just like 5 to 10 years, everything reversed and went even better than it was before. I can only think and correlate that should be the same attitude that we have towards black fathers. But then, how do you do that when we have 1.2 million African American men currently incarcerated? I mean, we're getting hit from every side: homicide, incarceration.
That's the price that we had to pay for our um, ignorance of social structure. Okay,
Mm, okay.
that's the price you pay for everything, right? I mean, bottom line, nothing is free. So we have paid that price, and we are still paying for our inability to have structured families. Okay, male and female. We're paying the price, and the price is also obvious when the government says you all have such a social problem with crime, we need to put the military in y'all's community. That's a price we're paying too. Okay. So the bottom line is this: you can't have a you can't have a domestic explosion in the family that ejects the father, then have a drug epidemic, then have a murder epidemic. You see where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
Out, you can't have all of this and say, okay, tomorrow we're gonna be okay. All we got to do is this and this and this, and we'll be back to normal. We'll be back where we're supposed to.
Yeah, well, Democrats think every 4 years, Democrats say the same thing. Just get us in office and we'll fix this. Just get us in office, we'll fix this, and nothing happens. Which is why it's tough for me to deny common sense. Right? Is that if something that I'm doing is not working well, and it hasn't worked well for decades in and out, something radical has to happen. Which is why I think the Democrats, which is why I think that they really don't understand the politics or the environment that they're in anymore, because they've ran the same gimmick so long. And now, you got this guy coming in who is really bullish and willing to do some things outside of the norm. And they're shocked. They don't even know how to handle this. And I think that's the problem that we have, is that we've been working as a people, we've been stuck to just one political party so long that we've been curtailed, we've been pulled along the way with them. And now everyone's mad because you see people actually making choices now. I can't deny that there's some positive things about black kids not getting murdered in the streets, whether or not we have soldiers standing on the streets or not. I don't know which one is worse, but I know losing black kids every day is a horrible, horrible thing that we have to stop somehow. If he wants our vote, if he can save black people, black children from getting shot in the street, he probably got my vote, honestly.
I agree. I agree to this degree. I agree to this degree. Okay.
I'm tired too. It's been a long day.
We can't rely on Democrats or Republicans to solve our.
Amen.
It's not a political thing at all. Okay. Now, it's like, and I hope this makes sense to you and the audience. It's like how whales bring big schools of fish together in a ball and feed on them. I think it's whales or dolphins, one of them, and feed on them. They force a school of fish into a tight ball, and that makes it easier for them to feed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, politicians the same way. Politics is the same way. You have 330 million people in this nation, right? 42 million African Americans, or 45 million African Americans.
Right.
Politicians learn to get us all in a tight ball with issues. And they learn,
fear.
yes, they learn how to get the vote, or how they feed off of us. Okay? Well, we have to stop being schools of fish.
We do.
We have to get away from that. In other words, we should not allow politicians to come up with things in our minds and souls and hearts that bind us together for the vote. Okay? And that's the problem. And that's why Democrats can't find a solution to our problem, nor Republicans. And the thing is, we have systematically been put into this place. Okay? Some powers in this nation have forged us into being this social construct that allow them to execute certain powers on the nation. We did that. Why? Because back to when there was no father in the home, I remember this as a young teenager. I heard women say then, when their husband was gone, 6 months, a year later, over and over again, I heard this. I don't care if my son bring his girlfriend into the house for her to spend the night, as long as he
Mm.
bring come home. I don't care if he smokes dope at home, as long as he's at home. This kind of logic, okay? That's a destructive logic. That goes completely against our traditional society of old.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's totally against what we are about. But it went on, it happened, and it kept happening, and it kept happening, and it grew and grew and grew to the point whereby uh, we are in a situation where our youth do not respect the elders or seniors, or they don't respect adults. They don't respect authority. They don't respect teachers. They don't respect pastors. They don't respect anything because we evolve from that, from the point where a parent is saying it's okay for this to go on in the home, to gangster rap that's rapping about murders and killings and prisons and this types of thing. And our children have been on this treadmill, you know what I mean, or track for decades. Okay. So
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
if you're under 50 years old, you are affected.
You know, it's funny you should say that about rap and rap music, because I mean, let me ask you this question, and this is a little bit off topic. Where would we be without it? Without rap music, where would we be as a culture?
As a culture, well, now gangster rap with
Yep. Gangster rap.
vulgarity and all that is,
Hmm.
we would be in a much better place because, see, music is a programmer. Okay, it's a programmer. If you listen to the exact same quality of music every day, you're going to become that music. That's the way the mind is, right? It absorbs. It just keeps absorbing, absorbing, absorbing. And the mind justifies everything. That's how powerful we are. So without any control over that, you become gangster rap. Okay. To give you another example of what a, a reliable source told me once, and this is a barbershop situation, which makes it really unique and cool. He told me that in the barbershop, there were some children in the barbershop. Okay. And some of the people in the barbershop was asking these children, what do you want to do when you grow up? Just typical, conversation of adults and
Yeah.
children.
Yep.
Someone asked this little boy, who my source said was no more than 6 or 7 years old, maybe 6 years old. What are you gonna what do you want to be when you grow up? The little boy said, I want to kill somebody. Okay. Now that was years ago. Most likely that boy has killed somebody. You see,
And more
this
than likely, he came from a fatherless home.
more likely came from that uh, social environment, or and in the hip gangster rap era, the and come out of the home where profanity, drugs, alcohol, and all of this is happening, and probably have seen somebody killed, okay, or body on the ground. so to speak. Doesn't know anything other than that. So we, as a nation and as a people, I often hear individuals say, "But we didn't know any better." But you got common sense. You did know better. Okay. You just didn't act on your better thoughts. Okay. So there's no excuse for our predicament. There's no excuse for it. There's no justification for it. The white man didn't do it, and all of this and all of that. We have to accept responsibility for what has happened to us. And the only way we're going to get out of it is we have to address the future generations. We, like I said, if you are under 50 years old, you are affected by generations of negativity and don't even know what is positive. Don't even know. Have no idea what a traditional family ought to be like. No idea at all. Thanks to God, I had a traditional family. A mother, a father, and other people did in my neighborhood too.
Mm-hmm.
Had traditional homes in the neighborhood. Look, the neighborhood was superb. There was a neighborhood. There were there were people, fathers, mothers, seniors, all in the neighborhood looking after us, adolescents and little children. When we act up, you don't know who told your mama, but your mama knew when you got home that you act up. You see what I'm saying? You
Right.
didn't. We had in those days.
Community accountability.
Yes, in those days, when Daddy used to walk, sometime his car break down, he would have to walk through the neighborhood to go to work and come home.
He makes some detours too, wouldn't he?
So the thing is,
Right.
if you're under 50, you don't know what a traditional neighborhood is. You don't know what it looks like. Have no experience about it. Because if you're under 50, like my daughter, you know, they come up on the edge of destruction. You know what I mean? Right there when the destruction kicked in, that's when they were little children coming through. And she's 50. So I can probably say if you're under 55, you have no idea what a traditional neighborhood or a traditional family is.
Okay. So having the military in Chicago, in Memphis, in LA, in all of these places, okay, we get to this point. They're there. Crime is down. Yeah, no problem. Crime is down. The communities are feeling safer. Uh, People are beginning to, bring back those community aspects that you had mentioned that used to exist. When does it end? When, I mean, because what happens when they leave? Does it just go back to where it's at? Or, I mean, what is this actually doing by bringing the military in?
Not gonna do much. When you cut the light on, the roaches run.
That's
That means just basic stuff, right? So the bottom line is, it, for that moment, it's gonna be all right for that period. See, I remember when the National Guardsman was on the streets of Memphis when Dr. King was assassinated, and the curfews were in place. And I was surprised. I remember this quite well, right? I was absolutely surprised that all the bad guys was in the house. I couldn't understand it. You bad, you tough, and these people said go in the house and don't come out. You go in the house and don't come out. I wasn't bad and tough, but I roamed the streets. I would not submit.
right.
I just wouldn't submit. I was in the streets, me and a friend of mine. But all of the guys who I thought that was really bad, okay, tough, went in the house, closed the door, and cut the lights out.
And I think that's yeah. I was gonna say I think that's a huge analogy how crime works in and of itself is that it festers in the dark. So with these rules that we have in our communities, like no snitching, that's allowing that darkness to set and that crime to just to flourish. I think we have to get. I think the opposite needs to happen. I think we do, in fact, need to connect more with our police departments. Honestly, we no matter what the outcome is, it's better than just getting killed by drug dealers inside of your own community. I would encourage people to call every time they hear a sound in a bad neighborhood because somehow you have to turn the lights on so that crime will actually get rid of itself. I mean, that's the only way we can have neighborhoods that are going to work. So I do see this as an opportunity to at least bring those levels down for a little bit. So, because people need, I think at this point, we need an example of what a good neighborhood looks like. And when I seen that young man in DC, he posted a TikTok video. He was walking down the street and he was like, I got a chain on, I got headphones on, I'm bopping up and down the street. He said, ain't nobody gonna rob me, ain't nobody gonna shoot me. He said, military right there, military right there. He was like, this is the first time in a long time that I had the opportunity to walk down the street and not fear for my safety. I think we need I think we do need a setback right now where we can take an example on how this should be. Because whether we need to bring in more police, whether we need to start criminalizing being in a gang in and of itself. I've heard that recently. I thought that was a wonderful idea. Is that if just like if I'm in a child molesting cult, then just me being in it means that I can get arrested. And I think that the same thing probably should happen with gangs. Honestly, if you are affiliated with a gang, that instantly leads you're instantly arrested. If you're on one of those charts, because we need to make that unpopular. We need to make these things highly unpopular.
But see, this is the catch to it. The catch to that particular statement you just made is that it's too late. See, you've had how many decades of gangs growing into bigger gangs?
60,
Decades.
70 years.
Yes, decades, generations. Okay, and so it's like you said about the liberals. You know, they we as a people in our liberal thinking, although we have some conservative thoughts as well, but in our liberal perspective, it's like, oh, it's okay for them to be in a gang. It's okay because they don't have a father figure, and the gang gives them a father figure. You see what I'm saying? This is crazy. And now, and then when you get to a point where you have gang fights and gang wars, and your sons and daughters are murdered and killed, and people still justify gangs, and they still see where well, if you're under 50, you're gonna do that because you don't know any better. You don't know any difference. You don't know the periods of time when there were very few gangs. And again, I can go back. I'm a very senior person. I can go back into the 60s when in Memphis, Tennessee, the only time we heard about a gang would be the Blackstone Rangers in Chicago. That was it.
Blackstone, you had the whole name too. It wasn't Stones. It was just it was
Blackstone
Rangers.
exactly.
It gave it a little bit of prestige.
Right. So that was the only thing we ever knew about a gang.
Right.
Right. Okay. Now, in contrast, today, thousands and thousands of young people are in gangs, and thousands of them are ruining their lives and in prisons and in graveyards with tattoos all over them, speaking all kinds of languages that's indistinguishable from English, and then more. Okay, and so what happened? What happened to us? Why did we choose to go that direction? It's just like you said earlier in your conversation. Nobody wanted to snitch.
Right.
Nobody wanted to say this is bad for us. Nobody wanted to get involved with helping these youngsters realize gang life is deadly and it's wrong.
Right.
People just let it go. They they have let it go so long until I go back. If you're under, I'm gonna go 5 more years. If you're under 55, you don't know any better. You think that that's normal.
Wow.
You think that that's the way life is. It's supposed to be like that. What else are we supposed to be doing? You know, we have a massive problem, but it can be solved. But it can only be solved in the future. It cannot be solved with people that's walking this ground, walking this earth right now. They're not going to change. You ask them to
Right.
change, they're going to ask you to change from what to what.
I got you. So, all right, man. So, what do you do now? Because I know you have your own show that you do from time to time. What's the name of that show?
Shows I have Mo Talk Memphis.
Okay, that's Mo Talk Memphis.
Memphis. That's the general conversation, and Muslim Matter is another talk show that I do.
Can you say that one more time?
Muslim Matters.
Muslim Matters.
Yes, Muslim
Okay.
Matters. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's another show that I do, and I've not done a show in quite a while, a couple of a couple of months. Uh, the stress level is extremely high, and I've done so many things throughout my life until I think that I don't need that, but I may do a show
Right.
here and there.
Right. Well. I mean, the last time I had walked in on or popped in on one of your shows, man, it was absolutely fascinating. I mean, the conversation that y'all was talking about, it was a lot of our elders on there who were speaking like a lot of knowledge, and you even had like a city council member from Memphis on there. One time I popped in, and that was fascinating to hear her opinions on things. Who was that again? What was her name?
Um, Her name was City Councilman. Wow, I can't think of a name right now.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, I mean, I would encourage you to continue doing it, man, because it was. I think we have a knowledge gap, and if a young person would have sat there and listened to some of the stuff that you were talking about and the rest of your panelists on there, man, it was quite fascinating. Hopefully we can hopefully we can have some of those people on this show too as well, man. We'd love to have you and them on, Talut. But
Yeah.
Go
The,
ahead.
the catch is this: if you get your elders and your youth together, they can hear some very interesting things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we could hear a lot of interesting things from our youth.
conversation. Yep.
This conversation, just I mean, and believe it or not, your elders have gone through quite a bit, a whole lot more than you can imagine. They know a lot more than you can imagine. Okay, and and it's really mind-boggling when you hear some of these people say the things and talk about things. You know, um, you just be surprised how powerful that could be.
Yeah. Well, man, it's been a very fascinating conversation tonight. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. I hope that we can have you back on. Yeah, we got a lot of interesting topics that we're going to cover, and having, the knowledge that you bring forth would be awesome to have you back on. So, Talut, man, I really appreciate it. You got something that you want to say before we sign off?
Yes, I would like to ask your audience to tune in to kickingitradio.com also, if that's possible.
Yes, kickingitradio.com. When does that show air?
It's online radio. It's KICKYNIT radio.com.